AI has been with us for a lot of years already, but seems that the world has been taken over by the LLM or GPT tools. However, humans are and will still be part of the process, may be more important than ever. If we are building software, we need to have software development lifecycle, and probably we'll have to change it according to the new AI tools we are bringing into our organizations. Olimpiu Pop is with us today to discuss about the good, the bad, and the glitchy. A very balanced and easy to take in consideration approach on how we can enhance our software solutions with AI. Hi everyone, should be a Thursday afternoon and we are releasing a new episode. Once again, we vote for learning, so we try to give you some new topics to learn for the rest of the week. We have Olimpiu with us today. Olimpiu, who are you?
I'm Olimpiu Pop, long tenure in the software industry, around 20 years, and now I'm doing what I like. So a lot of indie topics, a lot of things that I explored in the last couple of years. So now I have time to work with them. It's a mellow period for me in terms of career. So mostly artificial intelligence, because that's the hot topic, and see how it has the impact on all the software development lifecycle tools that we usually use, and what's the impact on our country and our continent and all over the world.
Okay. How did you decide, Olimpiu, to become a programmer, a tester, an IT specialist?
I think the group decided for me. I spent a lot of time on the part of mathematics, and we were in 1990 in the end when I got started. Didn't have too many choices. We were either a doctor or something to do with math. I fainted when I saw blood, so the choice was obvious. And then one thing led to another. I went into computer science. My mother had a friend that had a computer, and that's how I got started. And then obviously they bought me a PC when I was too old to count in these days. And I liked it, I liked the challenge. So then one thing led to another, and I ended up in university in Cluj, and then I just followed the path.
Okay. So definitely there was a lot of learning involved, and the way we learn change over time. How do you see it? I tend to ask this question to people that are in this industry for more years. Was it easier back in the days to learn new tech? Is it easier these days when we have tons of tools that help us?
Well, you know the answer. It depends. So it depends on the angle you look at it. At that point, when you're young, it's the bliss of ignorance. You don't know too many things, so you focus on just the shallow aspects. And I think while as you grow, you just understand that you know less. And now the ecosystem is quite broad. But in my opinion, there are the important aspects are still there. If you think about paradigms, about important aspects are all the same. And it's all about reversing, and it's well, maybe like with fashion, the things are coming back and forth, and they are moving back and forth regardless of how they are. And even if you look at the ecosystems, just comparing JavaScript with Java, what Java was doing a couple of years back, JavaScript is just inventing, and it's all new. And pretty much, I think it's we have more tools, but the ecosystem is much more complicated. It's much more complex. And the answer remains it depends. So it depends on the context that you are in, but you should be able to learn easier, and it should be something that it should be part of the education of every individual that we have around.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that it's a matter of trends. I often identify this aspect, and sometimes I have to be honest, I am quite against this approach. I've met a lot of teams that follow the trends, even though it's not working for their team project product. I see a lot of time tech guys saying, I want to do it in this way because I'm going to use the technology because it's cool. But doing only this, you lose focus on the purpose of your product. How do you find balance with this?
Yeah, you're totally right. I agree with you. There are a couple of aspects to look at it. So one way, for me, I like to deliver solutions. And solutions are something that provides outcome and benefit to the end user, regardless of who the end user actually is. And for that purpose, you have to do an analysis. Sometimes it will be helpful to use the new stuff, sometimes it will not. And then it's also the crossing the chasm way of looking at things, where you have the early adopters and then you move from the early adopters into innovator space and so on and so forth, then you get to the laggards. It depends on where you are to want to go. If you focus on the important aspects, you will just go with the trend in the industry, and then you should keep your toes wet on what happens new. So what I was encouraging my colleagues usually is that we need to step up. And going back to your previous question, when you get started, you start understanding something, some concepts. I don't know, you start on the front end, you pick a framework, you start using it, and then you get proficient with that. But then you have to widen your reach. So either you go and learn new tools, and then you go on top of the paradigm. When you, regardless of the tool that you use, you'll be efficient and proficient in what you're doing, or you're going on vertical, where you start on the front end side and you go backwards, and you get back end, and all, you understand everything, and you move towards the solution engineering space. And I agree with you, because if you look at it, Ruby was all the hype a couple of years back. Now there are a couple of guys that still use it. But it's interesting. For instance, Stripe. Stripe has the largest code base written in Ruby.
Okay.
They have the power, they have the energy, they have the people to rewrite it, but they use it continuously because it solves the solution. They change a couple of the things around it, but it's the backbone of everything. Then you can look at Java. It's an old guy in the space.
Yeah.
Older than that, it's only C and Fortran. But it's still doing it, it's still delivering it. And regardless of what you want, 80% of the internet is probably written in Java, the important aspect. So I would say that you have to have your feet in on both surfboards if you want. Keep the things that are delivering, the sharp tools, the chef knives that you're providing. You're used to it. You just deliver quality and that's it. But on the other hand, it's important to widen your horizons, try different tools and other aspects that are important for you to just move forward and to make the things as good as possible for you to know what's happening, to be able to provide it. But at some point, it's useless to just reinvent the wheel.
I've been having this conversation within larger organization. Like, we have to follow the trend sometime. Okay, world is doing AI. We have to do it or try it at least. But in large organization, it's difficult to become knowledge or technology or programming language agnostic, and because it's difficult to maybe teach the skill set you need within the organization, and some decide to vote on a particular technology. So we are doing Java, we are not open to try to solve a problem in Go because we're gonna have some more issues along the process on the long term if we build a solution with a team that is now in our organization, but the largest part is Java specialist. We don't want to try this. Do you think it's a good approach, or
well, you know the
again,
answer. It depends. Yes. Well, the thing is that, in my opinion, it's that you have to have multiple things. You have to have a pipeline, and you have to understand how you want to deliver. So it's more now one of the trendy words, because you like it, in architecture is about socio-technical architecture. So we are not speaking only about the way how you deliver the software itself, but the way how it fits in the organization and the way how we do it. And then it's Conway's law that says the same, or the reverse Conway law that looks at the organization and the way how we build the architecture. And I think it's from that space on that you have to think. I remember at some point I was discussing with Sander Mack, the head of engineering from Picnic, the Dutch company, and they were like, the obvious choice for us was Java, or the Java ecosystem, because it's much broader than that.
Of course.
Because there were a lot of people on the market that were confident into using the JVM. The JVM started changing the way how it delivers, and now it changes every 6 months, and we have new cadence. If you look at the New Relic results, the New Relic published their results on how Java is being approached in April. And then you look at it, Java 8 it's a relic. It doesn't exist anymore. And then you can see that people are engaged, using new stuff quicker. But we want to be like pulling our leg underneath us because we are just trying to say that, yeah, we are cool because you're doing that. So the approach, it should be to have people that have technical voice in the companies. And on the other hand, every time when I worked in a corporation, a huge corporation, the topic was decided usually when playing golf because somebody was knowing somebody in IBM and other stuff like that, and it was based on licenses. And I think that's why it's important to have like technical people and create frameworks for them.
Yes, definitely. And create something that works for your team, for your
Exactly.
organization. Do that reusable solutions that are useful for you and your team and your project and your budget, and you have to
Yeah.
take everything in consideration. Okay, so we are moving to the AI topic. I'm the skeptical, okay? And we're gonna try together to get a bit deeper into the topic. What's good,
Okay.
what's bad about AI? Definitely, and I go to a saying that a friend of mine shared some years ago. He told me, Alex, you want it or not, it's happening. So you are
Yeah.
whether taking this train or you are left outside. Okay, so definitely a lot of things are changing, but also a lot of other things are still there, right? We still have to deliver quality. We still need the frameworks to test what we are building. We still have to implement, as you mentioned, development life cycles.
Yep.
So let's see how we can combine this together.
AI is not new, whether we want to believe it or not. Generative AI is just another framework, or not framework, another technology that fits in the AI space. AI is with us for now, so probably I'll have a couple of suggestions on my phone if I leave from here with all the topics that we discussed. So it's there. It's there on the shops that we use. It's on Spotify and all other stuff that we use. So there are good sides and bad sides, as you say. One, and yeah, I'm sorry, you're the skeptic, but I'm also not very. Let's say that I'm a conservatory. I'm in the middle at this point, even though I explored a lot of the topic. What happens is that people have the tendency of adopting it quickly. Everybody's afraid of it. So we have a universal FOMO, a huge fear of missing out on the management
Just
side.
like happened with the blockchain, right?
Yeah, that's true, but blockchain, it was isolated, it was one aspect. I didn't hear companies trying to change their mission and everything. Companies in Romania, companies around Europe, or other stuff like that. Usually when you go to a conference and you have a pitch, you talk about something, 90% of the time, the first question will be, how do I convince my manager?
Yeah.
This time, it goes the other way around. How do I convince the developers to implement that? And
True.
that's very scary because people are just pushing and pushing and pushing. And if you just think about it, there are a couple of examples that happened in the last couple of months. Everybody was just proud that they did LLMs. They have LLMs in production, and then you can go. I'll give you just a couple of examples, three or four. DPD, the parcel delivery company in UK, they used an LLM to have as their chatbot.
Okay.
And well, it's England, so probably the chatbot was a hooligan fan. He started cursing on the customers and just telling them, "Okay, go f yourself" and other stuff like that.
So this was a problem of the data that was used to train the
Not really. I think
solution.
it was more about the guardrails because the data is there, but then it's about the model is there. I'm pretty sure that they didn't train it on the football matches or going in a pub, but it's about the guardrails and the way how the things are going. Most probably, Air Canada had a similar problem because their AI bot convinced the customer to cancel his flight.
Yeah.
And then when they went to trial, Air Canada tried to convince the judge that it's the AI's problem.
not-
It's
yeah.
it's not Air Canada. Okay, I'm sorry guys, but AI is yours. So they paid the huge fine. And last but not least, and that's probably the most surprising for me, it's that a guy, a security researcher, managed to use the chatbot on Amazon, the mobile version, to just generate a Python script that can be used as malware. And we're talking about Amazon, the 50% of everything that it's about infrastructure. So these are challenging aspects that we have to bear in mind. And everybody's saying that AI will just push humans away. I think now that we see that what's happening, we have to bear in mind that we have to keep the humans in the loop more and more. And you can see that also the mindset and the way how the people are looking at it is changing a bit. People meaning the companies. Last year and maybe a little bit in 2022, everybody's talking about code generation with AI. Now it's code augmentation. They just took a step back because they realized that it's not as good as it is. Me, for instance, I see the difference in the quality of what's generating. Mainly the popular one like ChatGPT, it's harder and harder to get it to just deliver the quality that you want. But on the other hand, if you use the sharper tools, let's say you have a very good code base, and there are tons of open source models out there. If you take them, fine tune them using your own styling and everything that is very clean, it will just provide that quality that you're looking for. And that's an interesting fact because at some point, I think this is 2022 data, so it's not new. And Google was already running for 2 years code generation based on generative AI on their code base, and they saw an increase in productivity with 40%.
Okay, so
But it was a very small model.
Started, yeah. Okay. I've been discussing with a colleague of mine. It's our principal data engineer in the team. Our company pushed the copilots and we had to test it. And he said, okay, the tool was not able to generate what I'm writing. I'm doing some niche solutions, algorithms, and so on. Then we tried to generate some tests based on the code that we wrote. And again, we had stupid tests written and complex stuff that were not okay. And what we said was our approach should be, we will be the one to write the tests because we are the one that understand the context and the way we want to provide quality, and then have the tool generate the code that passes those tests. Would this be a good approach? Would this be the good side of having the LLMs and gives us a gain in productivity in the end? And
yeah, that's one way of doing it. The recommendation at this point is to pick one or the other. Either having the generating of AI generate the code for you, and you write the tests as a guardrail and a direction, as you mentioned, or the other way around, when they write the tests and you write the code. But if you look at it, probably this is the better approach, because if you already wrote stupid code, it has some edge cases that are not covered. It will just cover these things. So for me, it's a matter of how it's better for you. It's an easier approach to look into that. I would say that I would try to use it for the things that are hard. For me, regexes are hard.
okay.
These are things that are chores for me. I'll spend hours just trying and doing all that stuff.
Indeed.
And on the other hand, regardless of what you're doing, for instance, I was preparing for a couple of talks in a couple of conferences, and it was simple to pick a library, or it's simpler to pick a library because we already have expertise. There is the OpenSSF scorecard tool that is generating for any kind of GitHub repo. It generates a score, and then it tells you where are the problems, and you know how to compare them. So it's easier because you have numbers and it's easy to compare them. And then it's about the qualitative stuff when you like, okay, I like it, I don't like it, and other stuff like that. That's, as you said, it's about voting and about your corporation. And then I was just talking to AI specialists, people that are working in the US, working for the government and all other places, and how do you pick a model? What are the checkboxes that you have to look into? And everybody shrugged. Okay, guys, there isn't nothing to do it. You can look at the license, you can look at the data, what it was trained on, but you don't have any certainty. So there isn't any kind of X-ray machine to just go through that and just prove it's true or wrong. So in my perspective, in the end, as I mentioned also earlier, we have software needs to generate solutions. And that's where quality comes into place. Quality assurance comes into place because we have to focus on the product side. We have to make sure that we have a box, we have the guardrails around it, and the outcome that we want for our software or our tool or anything else that we want is proved. Human, automated, or anything like that. But definitely we need a big brother that is human that has to make sure that the things are happening
Yeah.
as expected. And that's where the things are getting nasty because there are a lot of things happening.
Okay. You mentioned earlier the software development lifecycle, how this changes if we are putting AI in our set of tools that we use daily.
Well, probably it will change exponentially because if you think about it, there are, I don't know, 8 steps. So how the infinity loop has a lot of steps into that. So I used it in generating diagrams. I'm not that good at drawing. So then that's a very good tool, and that's something that I'm using. But it's something like I'm, again, using its capabilities. For instance, what I'm doing is I'm generating code to generate diagrams. And then it's okay because what I'm doing, I'm taking the prompt, I drop it in the Git repo, I'm dropping it in the repository, and I also push the generated code.
Okay.
Because it's glitchy. Sometimes you get what you want, and sometimes you don't. So that's why I keep those iteratively, mainly for me as to see also and to backtrack it. We used it in a nice fashion for requirements for business analysis and generating huge amounts of documents based on what we have, and then we became reviewers. That's another aspect, or tying everything together. Code documentation is very good as well. That's so. Just think about all the chores that the developers have a problem doing.
Indeed. We don't like to write documentation, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah, exactly. So, and then there are the other things that we have to think about it. It's like logs. Logs are huge amounts of data. It's hard to go through them. Now most of the tools are distributed. There are microservices all over the place. So then that can be also another tool that you can use it into.
Okay, but somehow on the logs topic, if you are in the cloud, usually you have the cloud
Yeah.
provider that gives you all the tools to analyze, or at least I expect this. I'm paying a lot of money to the cloud provider
Yeah.
for the log tool,
Yeah.
and I expect they are embedding the solution there.
Yeah, hopefully. You see that's one of the problems that I see at this point of view, at this point of time, because what happens is that we have these things, and currently it's like a little bit the medieval times. It's nice, it generates the things either through an API or it generates the things through the browser, but then you have to take them and put them in the IDE. So now you're not copy pasting from Stack Overflow. You're just taking the things from the browser and you move them in your
Yeah.
IDE, or now the latest models of Copilot and the latest versions generate the things. You write it and it's integrated. But it's still, I feel that it's not there. And it's harder to use. And I agree with you, the tools will be there. But my feeling is that now everybody tries to deliver software as a service or model as a service. And then what do you do? Because if you just sum up everything that you need, you have a bunch of tools, like 5, 10 tools, each of them just $20 or 50 or 60 or whatever. And then they have a small icon, an information point that usually we don't click. And if you click on that, it will just say, by the way, the code that you wrote, it will stay on our servers for at least 24 hours. It doesn't say the maximum amount of time. So that's the problem. It depends on what you're writing, but that can be a breach into multiple places.
What about the testing strategies we have? So let's say we have an API, right?
Yeah.
That we need to build, and then we need to test. How can we enhance this process by using the LLM tools available there?
You know what's funny? We started working last year on using open APIs, so Swagger,
Okay, yeah.
and
This is
generate.
sort of is the standard, right?
Exactly.
Whether you are building a
Exactly.
REST API, whether you are building API through message queues, and you
Exactly.
just build an open API.
Exactly. So we started with that. So let's see what it will generate. And then the epiphany was, why don't we use the tools that are built for doing that? And we use the generative AI for the context. We feed it the business requirements, we feed it all the documentation and all the other stuff
Okay.
to give it the idea of what you actually have. And then we just ask it, okay, uh, based on code generators for Open API. We generated the stubs and everything else that usually goes out of the box, and those are tools that are already built. And then you have the framework. And based on the framework, you just say, okay, generate some test cases.
Okay.
And because now you make it feel like an expert. And based on that, you start generating the context and everything else and all the testing that you have. And then you have the humans that go and ensure that the quality and everything that you would like a human to be sure that it's happening, it's there. The feedback from my colleagues was that it decreased their, I don't know, their normal estimation for 10 days of doing something with medium complexity to something like 2-3 days. But I was always trying to bridge the gap, not to have dependency, over reliance on
I see.
AI. So that's one way of looking at it, and there are multiple other tools.
A very useful approach for the organization I'm part of was to find a way to bridge more the product and the engineering team. And what we managed in the end was to build a framework in which we had a testing framework using, let's say, Cucumber, and we were relying on behavioral driven way of writing the tests. And we used the Gherkin language to define how the tests look like. Okay. And we defined our own natural language. We defined some keywords that we linked with a plugin to Jira. And we have now our product people being able to choose from some drop downs. Okay, what I want. When it happens and he has a list with what I already implemented in the framework, if that happens, and again, a list of actions, given this data, and they provide me a CSV simple format of the data or a JSON or whatever, then I expect this outcome, right? And they are, the product team now is amazed by this magic that happens. They just go in the Jira tool that they are using often, and they just click here and there, and they create a new test on top of the software the engineering team already written. Now, was this work useless? Can this be done faster, better, differently or only enhanced by the AI tools?
Well, I'm pretty sure that it can be. I mean, currently you have an interaction with Jira and the other part. Now it should be easier. Just think about it. You have somebody that is coming, I don't know, from another ecosystem. They use Bamboo or anything else, and now you have to guide them on the product side. Guide them. Okay, use that, and this is how we do it here. Oh, I don't know it. And then now, if you think about it, having an LLM that is trained and properly adjusted to that purpose, that given person that can be a very experienced product manager can just say those things in their own words, and the code and the Gherkin test and everything else will be generated automatically. So that's the magic, because you'll use your own words and you'll have a dialogue. So that's the thing. It's like rather than having a guy that knows how to use it and a girl that knows the industry, now you'll have the guy that knows how to use it, not knowing the industry, and ask questions, or the other way around. So for me, that's one of the biggest benefits at this point. You're cutting through the time needed for onboarding. Because just think about complex financial software. You have a guy like an accountant, 30 plus years in accountancy. He knows pretty much everything. And then he goes and he used the software for the last 20 years. He comes and says, okay, I don't know how to use those things. Either we change the license or you teach me that. Well, everybody else needed like 2 years to learn that. But then the guy comes and says, I want that report and that report and that report. Then you have another communication channel to the software that you have, because now you have if you look basically, you have the thin layer of UI on top of everything, and then you have some magic, and then you have the data. And without data, it's like I give you my car with the empty tank. Alex, go and bring me an ice cream. Well, it's
Funny you
pointless.
should said that. So data is the new fuel. I just read
Exactly.
this LinkedIn post written by an engineering
Yeah.
manager at Google saying that he was trying to put
Yeah.
the light on the data engineering roles, and
Yeah.
he said data is the new fuel, right?
Exactly. That's the magic, and without data, nothing works. But now we have to think that we have these enhanced communication channels where you can just discuss with it. And a long time ago, when I was doing my master study, we were discussing about ubiquitous engineering. Engineering that is all around us without interacting through a screen with it. And that means, if we look at it, there are the things that we have now, like glucose scanners on our bodies. We have our phones, we have our gadgets on our hand. So pretty much those are the things. And now we'll have probably printable context, printable clothes that will have embedded sensors. And now we have all this data that is gathered, but then on top of that, we'll have also ways of interacting. We have Siri, but it's really, really dumb. Now, as Apple announced not long ago, a couple of days back, having the ability of ChatGPT embedded with Siri will mean a
Okay.
lot of other stuff. Like, I don't know, wake me up at 7 if it doesn't rain, wake me up at 6 if it rains. And all this other stuff that you really have an assistant to assist you. But on the other hand, just think about that how wide is now the attack surface. Because initially you had only the skills that you needed somebody to understand the systems, to jailbreak them and all the other stuff. But now on top of that you have social engineering, because the AI currently is like a teenage guy that lived in a village, and now for a candy he might smile too nicely.
I have one last topic for you. Again, it's the skeptical talking, but I'm thinking of all these years in which I've been working as a data engineer and a big data engineer, and we were collecting a lot of data, and we tried to store it as better as possible in different databases that serve the purpose, whether if it was a relational, a NoSQL, a columnar database that is really useful for some analytics or some in memory and so on. And we are giving them to our users a UI in which we give them some strict directions, like choose these checkboxes, choose these values from drop downs, in order to be able to give them the best answer by analyzing the data or using this input. Now I have requirement from the business team. I need you guys to give me natural language search. We are in Google Cloud. There's Vertex AI, so you should have a fast way and easy way of doing it. Is it so or not that much?
Well, the proof is in the pudding, and it depends on all of other stuff. Zero UI is gaining a lot of momentum, so I would expect things to happen. I don't remember exactly the name of the site. I was discussing with some guys from the front end side last week, and they were like saying that there are tools now that are using exactly this. You just type something like a Google search, and if they don't have the thing that you're looking for, they generate on the spot the website for you. So yes, I think it should be. We are closer to that one, but I think it's important to see how feasible it is for each and every one of the topics. I'm speaking with a couple of guys in Bucharest. They were working on a couple of ideas to build something like that. And what they were doing is that they were fetching the schema of the data, and then they were generating some kind of meta discussion based on which in natural language you asked all the points. So we are closer to that, but it's still some at points. I feel that it will probably work on 50-60% of the cases,
Yeah.
and then somebody will come to you and asking, okay, why isn't that working? And you'll miss the tools that usually have to understand those aspects, because you have an extra level of abstraction on top of it, and it will be harder for you to debug. It's like everything else. You're just making things more and more complex, and then you have the glitchiness of everything that is software related. I was discussing earlier with a partner of mine, and he was very frustrated because he worked 1 hour and something to generate the picture, and then he finally had a prompt for it. He forgot to save the picture, and then he used the same prompt, and it was something totally
Different.
different. So that's the problem. It's a nice toy. It's a nice thing to play with. But for now, I think the most important thing that we need to understand is that generative AI is a general type of technology, and it has different ways of being used and
Yeah.
implemented.
What's important in the end is to understand that maybe these tools are not ready to provide the production fail-proof operational solutions, but this doesn't mean that you should not agree with your technical team, with your
Yep.
management, that you should assign
Yep.
some time once a week, once a month, couple times a year, just to do some POCs, see what you can
Yep.
gain from that, and use what's useful, as you said, to
Exactly.
build the right framework for your needs.
It goes to our previous discussion is that try it, be aware of what's happening, but
Yeah.
know if it's okay for you or not. And that's the most important
Yeah.
aspect to have. And for me, it's pretty much the same thing. Uh, One thing that one of my friends was saying is that before everything, you need to fix your SDLC. You need to fix the way how you do software development. And then if you do that properly, regardless of you're using Copilot or anything else, you have a safety net. And you have a standard of quality that is being used.
Yeah. Thanks for saying it. Fix your SDLC,
Yeah.
or have a SDLC
Uh,
first and then
Keep the humans in
improve
the loop.
it. Yeah. Great, great. I really like this approach. Being the, as I said, the skeptical, I really like this. Feels like a balanced approach on how you should tackle these challenges, and there's no end of developers, and there's no end of tech guys, and
Yeah.
there's no tools that will do the job for us, but it's another set of
Yeah.
tools, maybe better than the ones before, because this is what we try
It's
always, to
faster.
build tools that helps us. And
You just have to think like how it was in our childhood. We still had frozen lakes and frozen rivers, but we didn't go like crazy running on them. We
of
just
course,
stepped, tried it,
try it.
and
Yes,
then
yeah.
when you got to the hard ground, you just took
Yeah,
another
it's a
step, and
good
pretty much,
metaphor. Yeah.
yeah. So that's the way how I think we should approach it with
Okay.
any technology, not only AI.
Thank you, Olimpiu.
Thank you,
Any
Alex.
final thoughts or some recommendation? Maybe a good book on AI for our viewers.
Well, in terms of books, I think the things are changing too fast to be able to follow something. I think it's important to be able to try different tools and see exactly what's happening. And I can recommend four tools that are very useful to use. Olama is nice
Yeah.
because you just go and catch from Hugging Face. Actually, all of them they are catching from Hugging Face the model, and then you can try it on your machine. Google has a nice sandbox where you can play with other stuff. Then a tool that is in the Java ecosystem, JLama, that is very powerful and has also web UI where you can try just discussing with the tools themselves. From Red Hat, actually from the open source community from Red Hat, the Podman has a new addition to it, AI lab for Podman.
Okay. Okay.
And the nice thing with it is that you try the model, you get to a point where it works, and then it's easy to just deploy it because Podman is used to deploy in Kubernetes spaces, it is used to deploy in containers, so then it closes the gap on the MLOps, so that's useful as well. But probably last but not least, it's the tool that it's very useful when for the skeptical guy is Devox Genie. It was built by Stefan Janssen from Devox, and what it does is that you can ask multiple models in the same time the same question, and then you can see how the tool responded. So then you can use the different tools to see how it qualifies the question. So those are a couple of tools that I would use. And the other thing that I think it's important to understand, not everything needs an LLM. It's like
Yeah.
you have, I don't know, you broke your nail and you're going to a hospital and you want to discuss with all the doctors. You need a specialist, and that's what you need to do. It should be okay to start experimenting with do POCs with an LLM and then using transfer learning or knowledge distillation to get to the proper model. There are tools out there for, especially in the NLP space, that are, for instance, Spacey from Explosion.ai. It's a good tool in this area that get to the point where they had models that were 10 megabytes in size. So that's something that runs on your phone. So
Okay,
regardless
great.
of what you have, it would be there.
Great, thanks
Thank
for
you.
sharing that. I'll definitely gonna try this one. So you heard it, folks. You have a lot of recommendation. Try them, see if they work for you. Thanks for watching. If you found the content useful, don't forget to share it to somebody in your organization, your group of tech friends, or maybe your colleagues at school. And give us a feedback on the platforms you are watching. Stay curious. See you on the other side.